Yeah, players are resolving mulligans. In the meantime, let's have a look at the decks, and we might be in for a long one, as both of these players have decided to play very comparable decks. Amaury used to be on the old Sultai build that was using more a graveyard interaction, and Sander is very much the player that made the Sultai version with the elementals a lot more known. But the fun thing is, I now see that they've switched. I see the elemental heavyweight in Amaury's deck, and the more reanimation-based one, more or less, in Sander's side. So, no, we still have the 4 Risen Reefs for Sander. They were just hiding in another section of the deck. So, a bit of a mirror match here, but it should prove to be pretty interesting to showcase what these decks can do. I heard that Sander made a stack for himself so that he doesn't forget his triggers. Should also make watching him play a lot clearer. So let's thank him for that. I do think we have started. Yes, I do think we have started the round here, as we are looking into mulligans for our players. Yeah. Amaury mulligans down to 5 even. But with the new London mulligan, it shouldn't be too much of an issue there. So officially the round has started now. As we see a showing off of the mirror nature of this deck. 2 Leafkin Druids facing off against each other. So both of these decks really are pretty focused on the interaction between Risen Reef and other elementals, using Neoform, as we just saw here, to make a bit of a tutor engine, so you can get your rares, you can get your Risen Reefs, you can get the occasional Ravenous Chupacabra for utility. I think both of them are also playing Vinemare, which is really a silver bullet against certain decks, and getting that Vinemare with a +1/+1 counter on it on turn 4 can be pretty backbreaking for a lot of different decks. Sander with the natural Risen Reef here doesn't need to use his Neoform to get one, as both of them are grinding the value machine. Yeah, I don't need special effects, I can do them myself. So as I said before, this can turn into a bit of a grind fest. Amaury going onto the offensive with his +1/+1. I just realized that the autofocus is still on, so let's get rid of that autofocus off. Otherwise it keeps looking at the hands. There we go. All the little life total changes. So Dusk Legion Zealot, one of the most present commons, I think, in this Gentry metagame currently, and also leaving us very soon with a rotation for Throne of Eldraine. So Party Horn for special effects? No, we're not doing special effects this time. I was gonna make a an advantage bar like the nice coverage has, because here the early game is very much dominated by who has the bigger Risen Reef presence. Clearly that's Sander here, getting double triggers for every elemental that he plays. So it's either card advantage. It's card advantage anyway. Whether it goes to your hand or to the battlefield, it's still a card extra that you draw. And then the fun thing is, suddenly the dynamic of this match changes when one player gets a board presence like the Vinemare here and actually gets to capitalize on it. It can also be a chain of Cloudkin Seers, because this deck grinds value very, very hard, but does it all through very, very small creatures. So it's very interesting. Surprisingly, Vinemare, an elemental horse, fits right into the deck here. And ooh, the main deck Fungal Infection for Sander takes care of the Risen Reef. Fungal Infection usually reserved for aggro matchups with its ability to trade multiple creatures or be a bit of a roadblock, a great tempo play against both a big and a small creature. Here taking out a pumped Risen Reef, so getting rid of the value engine for Amaury. On the other hand, Amaury, like I said before, has that Vinemare going, so has the board presence that Sander will need to find an answer for sooner rather than later. Duskleech Zealot for Sander. And another Leafkin Druid, so keeps grinding. Next turn, Amaury will Neoform into Massacre Girl. That will be pretty good as well. The games often end when Massacre Girls come to pay a visit as well. It looks like Amaury is a bit settled on grinding this out gently with Sander. Let's get both of them equally into the screen. We have a Neoform on the Risen Reef here. To get the new innovation from Sander, a Night Veil Predator. So Sander cut one of his Vinemares for a Night Veil Predator. I'm not sure exactly why. Both of them fill the same purpose, but I just have the feeling that Vinemare is more pressure. It's deadly against mono blue for sure, yeah. That's a good point. Dusk Legion Zealot to dig deeper. And for some reason Gatherer has changed the size on newer cards, so now we don't have a nice card viewer anymore. Sniff. I is disappoint. So like I said earlier, suddenly the dynamic of this matchup changes and the possibility for racing opens up. We're now in the first turn in which Amaury can go onto defensive, and I think he just has to with the Vinemare. That's a Journey. What's it called? To Eternity. So Journey to Eternity doesn't do anything when you play it, but when you flip it. How do I flip it? There we go. It becomes a reanimation engine for Amaury. It's one of his mainstays. So this an attempt to keep that Vinemare going. Sander I just realized I put my camera wrong. I'll have to adjust that for round 2. So now we're in the beating phase for these two. Not sure. A Brontodon. So one of the answers against the journey. Not not the ancient Brontodon. The other one. Thrashing Brontodon. So we still see Sander pushing out a lot of creatures, but they don't really add much to the board. Thankfully for him, they will serve as chump blockers to win this race in the end. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. Also, welcome everybody in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to dump them there. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. So Sander keeps grinding that Risen Reef. With what pretty much are just jump blockers for Vine Mares at this point. But it's a road to victory here. I think Amaury might be a bit depleted as far as hand cards are going. Gets a Cloudkin. Cloudkin Seer. So if he does find a second one, and I do think he's playing the full set of... Is he playing? Yes, he's playing the full set of 4. He'll have a blocker for the Nightvale Predator. So definitely an avenue to victory for Amaury. That's a Spark Harvest. For Amaury, taking out the Risen Reef, the only reasonable target he has on the board here. As that Nightvale Predator does have Hexproof. Leafkin Druid for Amaury doesn't serve the same jumping purpose that Sanders have at this point. And I think that might be the reason why he is playing the Nightvale Predator, because it breaks these kind of chumpy stalemates. So as long as you have a Risen Reef that keeps on grinding, you can just churn out infinite jump blockers in theory. Now we have another Risen Reef ready to jump to duty. One more mana. Sander contemplating his place here. As Amaury is now empty-handed. Ooh, and we get Muldrota. Looking at that advantage bar, it just slid. It's mirrored. Pointing at the wrong direction. So advantage Sander, very much here. Gets to rebuy everything that's in his graveyard, and with those 4 Leafkin Druids, he has the mana to go wild with that. I don't think he has that many interesting permanents in his graveyard. We haven't seen a fetch land, no enchantment. Like if a dead weight does show up, will be huge for him here. But is he playing dead weights? Doesn't seem like he is. Neoform, Yarok. Yep, there's no dead weights in the deck. No. So Mildruta a lot less impressive. Also an elemental though. It's almost like Watsy wanted us to play the deck this way. There's another one hiding in both decks here. Is the Yarok? What's its name? The Desecrator. The Desecrated. Yes. And now Amaury is on the jumping plan. Has that second Vinemare though. Quite a lot of pressure for Sander, but we keep having the engine of Risen Reefs and Mildruta going for Sander. So an attack on the ground is literally unbeatable. A bit of a confusion here. Life total change number 50 or so for game 1. I actually like this viewpoint. We might change coverage in the future to be more this point of view. So Neoform on a Risen Reef, getting a Vinemare of his own, further gumming up the board for Sander, as his Nightveil Predator is poised to finish the game here. Fungal Infection to clear the other flyer, so that double block by 2 Cloudkin Seers on the Nightveil Predator is no longer an option. Advantage extremely for me on Sander's side. I mean, even to the point where Amaury needs to top deck a Neoform or or the Massacre Girl herself to still have a chance here. But then if we look back from the side view, we see Sander with a full grip of cards ready to rebuild. So yeah, I think that's the best decision for Amaury, making sure he has time to try and finish this match, as that game 1 took about almost 20 minutes, I think. So let's have a look at what these players bring to the game from the sideboard. For Amaury, we have 3 Return to Nature, 3 Duress, 2 Fungal Infection, 2 Negates, a Spark Harvest, 1 Tasmina's Transmutation, a Siren's Ruse, and 2 Spell Pierces. The Tasmina's Transmutation is really interesting, as it neutralizes something like Muldrota. Excuse me. It's been a long weekend already for me. But the Neoform kind of foils that plan. Return to Nature exiles cards from the graveyards as well. So that may be something he wants to look at. Just to neutralize Muldrota, but then again, it's rarely really worth it. Even if they don't go crazy with the Risen Reef, if they have Muldrota, things are looking dire for you as it is. Fungal Infections are really good to bring in, because they just get rid of your opponent's Risen Reef so cleanly. Um, Spark Harvest, I'm less a fan of. Um, there's some Obnixilis Cruelty in the main board for Amaury that that do a better job at removing in this matchup. So there's Siren's Ruse maybe to dodge removal. We'll see. It's a hard deck to sideboard against because it's so creature based. A lot of your usual sideboard cards in grindy matchups simply don't work. So bringing in the Duress, the Negate, the Spell Pierce is all very awkward because there's so few spells you want to interact with. And on the other hand, you have Neoform, which is so essential to the working of this deck that maybe you want to push into actually bring it in after all. For Sander, we have Disdainful Stroke, Dive Down, Duress, Negate, Return to Nature, Secrets of the Golden City, Soul Salvage, and Undercity's Embrace. That's an interesting one. So the Undercity's Embrace technically can deal with a Vinemare, but only really very early in the game. Since otherwise they'll just sacrifice something else. It's a cool card to bring in. Soul Salvage might be interesting in these long, grindy games. Return to Nature, same thing. Secrets of the Golden City as a alternate card advantage engine. I don't really understand, but I'd be interested in hearing Sander's way of line of thought on that. So don't forget as well that this was Amaury mulliganing to 5, so starting off the match with a quite a strong handicap. Not sure what Sander will be bringing in here, if anything. I also didn't really pay attention, so oopsie. But it looks like our players are ready to go as we go into game 2. Sander up 1 game against Amaury. Sander, one of the co-organizers and champions of Ghent. Amaury, very much a mainstay in the Bredene atmosphere, cosmos as it may. And we're starting with land go, land go, land go, land go. So, Leafkin Druids. Life gain.deck. Yeah, Amaury is playing the full 12. Both of them are playing the full 12 gain lands. I think both of them have a set of the 3. They're loving this. It's just banter back and forth. Loving that it's all coming in the same order. In the meantime, we got a sneak peek of our Hedgehog there, and we have the first basic land to hit the table. Turn 4 for a Risen Reef. Ooh, that's gets answered immediately with a fungal infection. Fourth gain land for Amaury here. And Sander has the advantage. First blood. This is a very empty board for what we usually see this deck do. Right. So Amaury can bring big hitters at this point. Amaury in the tank seems to have quite a bit of options looming in the background. We have Alan, previous Gentry Open winner, poised to do it again. Amaury has to remember that he is a bit tight on time here. Has to win 2 games in the remaining time in the round. Time. I'm just repeating myself. So I wouldn't expect Sander to remind him to play faster. Having virtually secured at least a draw already. This time, Sander in the tank. So he's now. We sort of skipped that early game. No, we have an attack. And fungal infection gets negated. Sander understanding that a lot of the interaction with wait. He had 2 fungal infections. Okay, cast the second fungal infection after the first one got negated. Gets to keep his Vinemare, and like we said earlier, this match has an early card advantage phase and then a mid phase. That's not the card I was looking for. And then a mid phase that's very much focused on the beats that it can bring. Thank you. So we pretty much skipped that building phase in this match, in this game here, and skipped straight into the big beats. Sander playing a Ravenous Chupacabra here. That doesn't really do anything. Took out the Golgari Pawnbroker. So this could be a stemming the bleeding, or this could be Sander setting up for a Massacre Girl through a Neoform next turn. So that could be his avenue back into this game. Risen Reef for Sander. Gets to try and not really rebuild the board, but start to build the board as he gets beaten down by Vinemare powers. Cloudkin Druid, Leafkin Druid. For Sander, gets his trigger for Risen Reef and goes onto the offensive with the filthiest of curse, the Ravenous Chupacabra. Amaury started off really strong, stabilizing out with the Vinemare, and now with and then with the second fungal infection to win that combat handily. We apparently missed a vicious offering on the reef, the Risen Reef of Amaury. Ooh, and there's the journey again. As my Laptop here is freaking out. Yeah, my touchscreen is broken. Okay, whatever. It's not important. Amaury, I totally missed what happened. I think we have Massacre Girl flipping the journey to eternity into Atsal, and this time Sander scoops them up, realizing that his chances to win that game are slim to none. Yeah, so I did get everything. Alrighty. Into scoop, yep. Yeah, I don't think that Sander had a lot left in the bag. Was very much chasing the game the entire time there. So 1-1, and Amaury commented that that was the first game he's ever won on camera. So maybe I shouldn't handicap him too much by putting him on camera all the time. Neither player revisits their sideboard, which is interesting to know. Sander choosing to be on the play. Even though the camera quality is really shitty, it's really nice to have a second position. And there we have Pepin visiting, former invitational winner. In the background we see the leftovers of the raffle. I think a lot of people still need to collect their items. I think we have about 15 minutes left on the round, so there is time for a quick game. Having another crazy grind fest could prove problematic if we want to see this match come to a conclusion. As we see the people that have won buys trickling in as well. Sanders, the Kank is here, Peter Steenbeek has walked by. We also see some interesting people venturing in from the legacy community. It's kind of cool to see that interest in our format is going cross-format. As we jump into Game 3, 1-1. Sander versus Amaury. Game 1, Sander won through a huge value grind that went unanswered by Amaury. Game 2 was won on the back of a journey to eternity that flipped when Amaury played a Massacre Girl. And it looks like this time we're going more back into the kind of game we saw Game 1 with Leafkins into Risen Reefs. So, Risen Reef for... No, not the Risen Reef. Neoform, so a delayed Risen Reef for Amaury. You have to go for it here, but it's way better to pull it naturally and have your Neoforms available for the more problematic parts of the game where you need to tutor for answers, where you need to look for more game. Also of note is that Amaury doesn't seem to have black mana available to him. It's only the support color, but still it's important to note. Another non-black source. I was about to say, I think you already played the land there. Sander on the play needs to be ahead in lands, and neither of them have had a a successful bonus drop of the Risen Reefs. Amaury winning the land race when it comes to fanciness, according to me. Cloudkin Seer for Sander, further grinding out card advantage. So at this point we have an evasive attacker for Sander and a match in the card advantage. So mild advantage to Sander, which can be mostly attributed to being on the play. 4 mana for a Vinemare. Gets Vicious Offer. Gets the Risen Reef Vicious Offering to deny Amaury the trigger of the Vinemare. And now again we have that dynamic beats versus advantage versus card advantage that Sander will need to supply either a steady stream of chump blockers or trade his value creatures for the Vinemare. Risen Reef together with the Cloudkin will block and kill the Vinemare, especially without black mana available, so he doesn't even need to fear any fungal infestations. Cloudkin Seer not attacking, so clearly representing that double block here. Still no black mana for Amaury. Cloudkin Seer for Amaury. Unfortunately, he already played the land, so if this is a black source that comes into play tapped, would be a minor play mistake. Amaury realizes he's in a bit of a pickle, passes the turn, realizes he can't attack that double block, even though it takes out the Risen Reef is looming there. Maybe even telegraphing that he is holding the fungal infection and plans to do better things with it in the future. A Ravenous Chupa gets rid of the Cloudkin Seer on the side of Amaury, but apparently didn't top deck a black source. Gets a Risen Reef. Time to dig. And plays a Thornwood Falls. The struggle continues. Okay. Sander commenting that they're in a big stare down. Neither player really having an avenue of attack. As they're both looking for a way out of that stalemate. Mana. 4 green mana. Oh, big costs. That's Mildrota coming in again. There's not too much in the graveyard right now, but yeah, now he can gets to force issues by suicide attacking, because he'll get to play them out of the graveyard. Yeah, so that'll get recast and kill his Risen Reef. Apparently, Sander choosing to keep mana up. Maybe holding up negate here. He's already shown that he boarded them in. I don't really see another reason to wait on them here. So yeah, there's the negate. Stops the journey to eternity. Sander commenting that the journey really is the mirror breaker here. It also being an enchantment means that the Mildrota brings it back, which is pretty relevant. Cloudkin Seer for Amaury, trying to keep up. Of note is that Mildrota is black as well, so it won't be able to stop the Vine Mare. So that Cloudkin Seer and Risen Reef also need to stay on the defensive. But now, like I said, Sander can just start suiciding into Amaury's board because Mildrota is there to rebuy everything. Ooh, Yarok turning up to double the triggers. Very much the reason why this deck took a bit of an uptick again when M20 came out. So 7 minutes left in the round at this point, with Sander in a huge advantage. Replays the Ravenous Chupacabra, which because of the Yarok gets to kill 2 creatures, wipes the board, solidifies position. Mildrota comes in because it's huge on top of being a crazy ability. And advantage very firmly that way. Sander with the advantage, if that wasn't clear enough already. At this point, things are getting to I don't even understand why he didn't just attack with the Cloudkin Seer as well. Risen Reef for Amaury, trying to dig himself out of this position where he's in a rough patch for sure. Tapping 6 mana for a Mildrota of his own. So now he can bring back the Journey to Eternity, and Sander can't really attack profitably anymore. That was the Risen Reef trigger for playing the Mildrota. Hadn't taken any other action yet, so still gets it, even though probably he kind of forgot it just a little bit. Fungal Infection on his own Cloudkin Seer. Just to get advantage out of that Mildrota, needs to replay stuff to get further. And with the Yarok, that represents 4 draws with the Risen Reef and the Cloudkin Seer. Cloudkin is back. So in the meantime, the banter on the background is getting more intense. I hope we have an aggro matchup in the feature match for next round. Neoform sacrificing Ravenous Chupacabra. Getting a 5-drop Cavalier. Cavalier, where's the black one? Of Night. Well, I couldn't have guessed that one. So, Cavalier of Night. Into the scoop step for Amaury.